Hello to everybody who's watching right now, and welcome to another discussion about Savannah College of Art and Design. Today I have Cassie Anderson and Eva Andrews with me, and we're going to talk about tips and tricks for surviving your first quarter at Scad, because it can be so overwhelming. You think you're out of the woods once you've been accepted after you've applied and everything, but it only gets more crazy. So I thought the first thing that we could talk about would be what move-in day was like, and I think that we all have different experiences with it because Cassie and I came in as freshmen, and then Eva, you transferred
as sophomore.
Yeah, so you came our sophomore year, and you were able to go directly into Pulaski House, but Cassie and I know all about the freshman area.
Woo!
Good times. So, Cassie, what do you remember about move-in day?
Oh, I remember it's pretty chaotic because you have so many people coming from all over, but it's also organized. Like, Scad does a good job of, like, getting people where they need to go and getting you the information you need. I think Turner House is, like, the main hub of all the information for freshman area. So it's like you go there, and I think you've got, like, checked in, and they give you your key and stuff, and then you go to your room. Yeah, it was. And then my mom was there, so she helped me get everything moved in and stuff. So that was nice. It wasn't just like me on my own trying to figure it out.
And did you know any of your roommates beforehand? Like, did you contact them online at all, or did you just luck of the draw and meet them that same day?
No. I feel like maybe I got their names beforehand, but we never, like, reached out and contacted each other, I don't think. I don't know, I have a bad memory of these things. But when we finally met, it was like, cool. And then we were friends. So it worked out really great. I've had really good luck with roommates over the years.
Yeah, I think mine, I remember being terrified, first of all, of, like, just being there. I remember Dad driving me to college that day to live at Turner House, and I was totally just going to dive roll out of the car and just not go. I was so afraid. It was just finally real that morning when you wake up, because beforehand you're like, yeah, I'm going to go to college, I'm really optimistic, it'll be a good time, and then you wake up and like, this is the worst decision of my life. I'm actually 17 hours away from my family, and he's just going to drive away.
Oh my gosh, I had so many stress dreams beforehand about like getting there, and then my roommates would already be there, and they had taken over all the space in the room, and there was no space left for me. I think that was like my biggest fear, was like not having any space of my own. But it didn't work out that way. I had lots of space of my own. It was fine.
And that's a legitimate concern because it's pretty tiny. I mean, Turner House at the time held 3 other people.
Yeah. It's crazy.
How many people were in Turner Annex? Did you have 3?
Yeah, well, it's like on one side of the hallway there are 3 bedroom rooms, and then on the other it's two bedrooms, but or bedrooms, beds, people, whatever. I had a 3-person room. I had 2 roommates for part of the time.
Yeah, some people just come and go, I guess.
Yeah.
There is a way to change roommates. We can talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, I don't remember if there's anything I wanted to add. They facilitate it pretty well. You're not totally left to the wolves. You have your roommates there already, hopefully. If they don't show up for a couple days, don't be surprised. That happened with one of our roommates. But they have an RA, a resident assistant down the hall that should be able to babysit you and tell you where you need to go. And, well, they hunt you down either way because there's paperwork. Yeah, as
Especially
if it wasn't
a freshman.
There's so much paperwork you have to fill out that first day. They want to know everything about you and how to contact you. It's stuff that you probably would have been familiar with already when you've applied to college. It's the same kind of junk, but it's good. They usually have snacks and stuff, and they have the pretty dorm, so you get to go in there and be like, okay, so mine looks really barren right now, but it could look like yours. It could look like yours. So, as freshmen especially, I think the resident assistants, they're like totally on our case the entire time.
Oh yeah, and like, you're required to go to events and stuff too, like resident life events.
Yeah, so you were not left alone ever. No, hardly ever. and you even know what it's like being a resident assistant. But I'll ask you that in a bit. How is it different for you, Eva? Because in the dorm that you lived in, there was only one RA. Did you even see her that entire day?
I think I did. It's kind of hard to remember. I remember I was really nervous about seeing my room because I'd only, when I went to visit Scad, seen the Turner House rooms, and I knew that was not where I was going to be living, and I hoped that it wasn't going to be like that. At the same time, I didn't want to have high expectations, so I was just really anxious to see the room and to see where I was located, and I wasn't allowed to do that till move-in day. I got there a couple days early to stay with some family friends, so that kind of gave me a good feel about the area. We got to walk around the dorm and like plan our move-in thing. And turn black. Are you still there, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm
Okay. Oh, you're showing pictures.
the wonderful place
Okay.
that you used to live. We all lived here.
Hello. So, when it finally came to move-in day, I had some, 2 suitcases, and then I think my mom came with another 2 suitcases. So I had quite a bit of stuff, and yeah, I was anxious about getting my bed first, and I had met my roommates. We Skyped a couple times, I think really just once. And so I knew a little bit about them, and I knew what they looked like, and I was nervous about meeting them, but yeah, I think getting the key was really easy. Like, I think we had to go to Barnard, and so that's a bit farther than Boundary, but I had someone to drive me. This is all very difficult if you don't have a car and you don't know what you're doing. Again, if you can arrange having a rental car or having a friend drive you or having a parent there, that really helps out, because I don't know how I would have done it with the bus system and being so I don't even know where anything is. So, yeah, it was really disorienting at first, and so I was glad I had a native to Savannah where I could just be like, oh, we need to go to this address, and then they would just go, and then I could just get around that way. So getting the keys was fine, and then I met my RA when I came in. She's very sweet. She wasn't Cassie yet, but yeah, she was a really nice person, and kind of similar to Cassie's aesthetic and RA personality. But yeah, so she was, simple and easygoing, handed me the stack of paperwork, the form that said I could get lead poisoning, and then I sat there and contemplated, what does that mean? Am I going to die at the end of Scad? And yeah, then I met my first roommate, and my second roommate came a bit later, and so yeah, she kind of had to face the reality of, well, we picked our beds first. And the biggest thing that I think, freaked out about was that our kitchen was, in our bedroom. And so I was really worried we were going to get grease all over our clothing and bed sheets, and I really didn't want that to happen. But fortunately, my roommates heeded my warnings and was like, please don't do that. And they actually tried to minimize the amount of oily cooking we did that year. It changed when we moved to a bigger room, but there's no ventilation, so it was really little things surprising you. And yeah, I didn't.
Pulaski is one of the older buildings, I think. Most every dorm is a renovated building from the city. Somebody else knew all about the history of this building. I think it was a Jewish community center at one time, and then it was it a women's shelter? Or am I thinking of the wrong building?
No, yeah, I think
no, it's
so.
the same.
Yeah. There's there's theories, I don't know how legitimate they are, but that's one of the reasons why it's an all-girls dorm, is because it used to be a women's shelter or something.
Yeah, it was under
right?
the conditions of it being given to the school, was that it had to stay an all-girls dorm.
Okay.
So, yeah, it used to be a women's shelter of some purpose, and that was in part of the handing over of the property. So, anyway, yeah, moving in, though, didn't have a lot of stuff, and then it was really nice to go out, since I had a friend who could drive me out to, Walmart or Target, some of the farther places that haven't been ravaged by all of the freshmen. Yeah, I was able to get some, unique little, cabinets and furniture for the room that helped with storage that fit the design of the room, because some of the rooms have different alcoves and little nooks, and So that was really good that I just kind of waited on that because, again, once I only seen the catalog picture, I had no idea what the actual dimensions were going to look like and feel like with all of our stuff in it. So packing light and then piling it in later kind of was a good way to go, I think. So
I think that Pulaski, it might have been one of the easier dorms to move in as far as like it's less crowded, at least, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
How many girls were in that dorm? Were there 60 at the most?
Yeah.
Okay, so definitely less crowded, fewer flights of stairs. There were only 2 floors, I think, in Pulaski. Turner House and everything was a different story. Turner is the biggest, or at least it's the most common freshman dorm, I think. It's pretty close to, well, everything is cradled together. I'll screen share again and bring it up, but it's a total zoo. It's so ridiculous.
Zoo.
I can't remember how many students are in this building. I'll go to the front of it, but
Labyrinth of freshmen.
definitely this is the place to be, I guess.
Yeah.
So this is Turner House, and you have a courtyard in the center. You can put your bikes there, and 4 floors in total, I think. Yeah, because I was on the 4th floor, way in the back over there, my freshman year. It's a nice place to live, but it's super loud. It's the biggest dorm. It's the easiest place to live, I guess. But Cassie, you're tucked over here at, well, why is it derpy like that? Let me go down the street. Okay, you lived over here in Turner Annex, and what was your experience like here? Were you glad to be away from the rest of the crazies, or what?
Kind of. I feel like I'm fairly accepting of both situations, so I was kind of like, cool, this is like where I'll be living, that's fine. But then later people pointed out that it's a little bit like an asylum or something, because you're walking down the hall and it's kind of like fluorescent lighting. One of the lights is flickering. It was a little unsettling, but it was good. It was a lot quieter than Turner House, except for the pizza place behind there. They would have events sometimes, and they would play music really loudly, and I would get really upset because the music was so loud it was like shaking our room. But
oh my god!
That pizza place.
They stopped doing that, I think, because someone complained.
Good. That would have been me. I would have had to go through mediation with the pizza place.
The pizza place? This map is probably really out of date.
It was a Mr. Pizza? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it would have been in this building here, right, with the red roof?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is now. Well, this is why we need Kaylee. She has our most up-to-date information. But I don't think I ever went there. I just stayed at the sub shop because it was in my own massive building that I never left. So,
yeah.
Oh, were you going to say something?
Oh, I don't know. No.
You're right, though, about Turner Annex kind of reminding you of like a hospital or something like that. It was a little creepy, flickering around.
It's got those like
flickering lights, definitely.
And, yeah.
I've never been in Turner Annex. That's like the only dorm I never actually went into. Well, there were other ones, but
you weren't really missing out.
I think I only saw a couple dorms in Dyson. Let me see how far it's going to let me go here. So this is like our freshman area.
Through the gate!
Oh, it let us. I wonder what
tried to get it in.
Bad idea.
You know what? It's not going to let us go any further. Oh, wow.
There's Scad Cafe, but what's it called now?
Oh, it's the Hive, right? So this is not up to date at all. I don't even remember it looking like this when we were there. This picture looks old. But attached to the cafeteria here in back, they have the Weston dorms, which I guess they just call W right now. Everything's just the first letter W at the Hive, and this is Dyson. It's a 2-person room. Reminded me a lot of Oglethorpe House, just really tiny motel-style rooms. Nobody really liked it there. I think everybody would have rather been up here, but it depends, because if you want to keep to yourself anyway, if you just want one roommate, go to the small dorms, but if you want a bigger space, yeah. Except, I think Kaylee told me that they've knocked it down to 2 students in Turner.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That happened, like, our last year, my last year, your last year. Maybe it was your last year there,
It
because I
was.
remember them talking about
Oh,
doing it.
maybe.
Yeah, remember our last year they kicked out all the upperclassmen. That's why they made Montgomery Hall, because they were
Oh,
like, yeah,
that's
all upperclassmen
right.
are out of Dyson and Weston, and then they opened it all to
Yeah.
freshmen and lowered the count for roommates. And now they're redoing, is it Weston or Dyson? They're rebuilding them to be more like Montgomery. So they're not going to be old motels anymore. They're going to be newish things.
That's good, because Weston was like sinking into the ground. You look at like the second floor, and it's like, woo!
Pretty
How much
much.
space?
I like the idea that they've been able to reuse like buildings that already exist and everything, but some
Yeah.
things just don't seem safe.
Yeah.
It's just time to, move on to something new, and that's totally fine.
Yes.
Well, moving on to something new. What next? That was a good segue. Good job. A plus. What else?
Food plan?
So, if you've survived move-in day and everything, I guess the next thing you have to worry about, regardless of if you're coming in as a freshman or a transfer, is when classes start and how the quarter's set up. I liked the fact that it was reliably 10 weeks every single quarter. You can always count on the fact that it's 10 weeks long. Typically, it should start on a Monday and then the class week ends on a Thursday, but I know that this year, when people come back for their winter quarter for 2016, it's going to be, do you remember when it did that hiccup? Was it our sophomore year?
Oh, yeah. And it started on
when
like
it
a
starts on
Wednesday?
Wednesday. Yeah, it
We thought
starts on
that was a good
Wednesday.
idea.
I think it has to correspond with some of the international students when they come back. It just happens
Yeah.
every couple years.
Something
Yeah,
like
it
that.
depends on the holidays fall.
Or leap years, because I think this is a leap year.
Is it?
It is.
I forget.
I
I always
think.
forget.
I don't know. But otherwise, you can always depend on the fact that it's going to be 10 weeks long, which is really nice for scheduling everything. It doesn't sound like a lot of time, but I think that everything is just so concentrated. I'm always exhausted at the end of it, and sometimes I wish it was a little bit less. I think we can all agree to that.
Oh my goodness. I remember when I first came into SCAD, like I went to community college and we had a semester-based system and I was taking like 5 classes and they were, I want to say like an hour long, and then in the summer they were 2 hour long. So I took summer classes also. And I remember when I was applying for SCAD and I came to visit and they were saying, you're going to take 3 classes. And I was like, well, what about if I take 4? And they're like, you're crazy. And I was like, well, can you do it? And they're like, yeah, you can, but you'll hate yourself. And I'm like, well, I'm exceptional. And I never did take 4 classes, and I'm glad I didn't. But I think it is possible if you're extreme enough, but it's not, I would still not advise it, even with my optimistic outlook on overachieving. And it's a nice pace. I think it's important because with the semester system, I felt like I learned my subject better, but those subjects were all general education, and with art, I feel like you're learning a lot of new techniques and experimenting in a lot of new areas, and it's best to just like keep moving and taking in all this new stuff and not sitting and refining one skill that might not really be used later or might overdo it. I liked the ability to just like spread out and take a lot of art classes over the time versus like taking like less art classes but taking them longer. That would have been not as fun, I think. But yeah, it was a big change for me. And I remember just being so baffled, like 3 classes? Everyone's gonna think my life's a joke, like so easy. But it wasn't. It really
I
wasn't.
had that response. People are like, well, what are you going to do with all your free time? And at first I thought I'd have some too. The classes themselves are each 2 hours and 30 minutes, right? It doesn't matter what kind of class it is. They're all the same length. It's great when it's a studio class because you get lecture time in the beginning, and then you can have the rest of it to work on the assignment for some of them. But when it's just like a general education lecture class, it can be agonizing. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a lot of teachers, or well, some teachers will give like a half-hour break, like especially in lecture classes, because that's hard for anybody to just sit there that long and still absorb things. Like need to get up, get some oxygen to your brain again, and get the blood flowing.
Yeah. 8
So that
a.m.s were
makes
the hardest for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
what kind of class slots did you prefer? Because they offer them at 8 a.m., then the next slot is 11, 2 o'clock classes, 5 o'clock classes, and then there were a few 10 p.m. classes, weren't there?
They have more now at the fundamentals because she was living over there and she sees them at Wallen and Anderson really, really late now. So there are the 8 o'clock classes that go on till like 10:30.
Wow.
So yeah, I wouldn't advise those because I don't think those areas are very safe at 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
But I
No,
think
not
if
at
you're
all.
staying on the campus, you're fine. But that's crazy.
Not
But
ideal.
what did you guys prefer? Did you want to get an early start and do 8 a.m.s just to get everything out of the way, or did you delay things till later at night because you thought, well, I'll have all day to do my other homework and then I'll go to class and then that'll be it? Just kidding, that was me. I thought, oh, I'd love to take 5 p.m. classes because I can have the morning to work on other assignments and then I can go to another class later at night and I'll be totally awake. That won't be a problem. It got really hard when it started overlapping dinner, though. I mean, if the class starts at 5 and I'm used to eating at 6 or 6:30, it's like, I'm not going to be out of here till 7:30. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue is I don't like being hungry. And I don't get hungry really in the morning. It's usually lunch or dinner. So I always try to like either have a snack with me or plan around my eating time. But I was an 8 a.m. person all the way. I don't know why. Being on West Coast time and having jet lag, that probably wasn't the wisest idea because it's the equivalent of waking up at 5 o'clock every day for class and being there. Yeah, so it's really exhausting, but I just like getting it done and then having the rest of the day to just chill or like work on my projects. And that flexibility of like, I don't know, like if a tragedy happens, it was all over in the morning and then you have the rest of the day to figure it out. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I liked getting up early and getting my day started. I've never really been one of the people to sleep in for a long time and then go and I don't stay up late either. I just can't. I'm an old lady. But there were a couple times when I feel like I had an 8 a.m. class and then a 2 p.m. class and this weird gap in between that was really strange. It was like I would go home and start to get work done and then I'd have to go to class again. That always was weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
I personally liked grouping things together and getting them done. But
Yeah, I think I had a couple back-to-back classes. That's kind of tough because then you're sitting for like 5 hours pretty much in class. But it's nice again because you get your 2 classes of that day because you'll usually have 2 on one day and then 1 on the other. So
yeah.
it's nice to have it out of the way, but at the same time, like, put them as close as you can with a little break in between, depending on how good you are at sitting still in a classroom. For me, it's usually not a problem because we're working at the end of lecture, and so you're usually drawing and you're in your creative mode and you're working and then you get up and then you go back to lecture, so it's kind of not like you just got done with lecture and now you're going for more lecture, unless you're taking like art histories and an English class or something. That would be painful.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially with that starting at 8 a.m. and then having that weird interlude of like, okay, this isn't a lot of time to start going on something after I have lunch. It's too early to start lunch. When am I eating? When am I doing work? When am I accounting for the travel time that it's going to take to get to class? That could really screw things up sometime. That might be one of my biggest tips and warnings is that if you're going to take the bus, you really need, especially if you live in the freshman area, you really need to count on the fact that it's going to take a while. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, especially for your general education routes. Everything, all the classes that you take as a freshman that you're going to take with everybody else are all going to be on the same bus route, which at first you think, oh, what a great idea. I don't have to learn anything else. I can just get on this one bus line and it'll take me where I need to go. But at the same time, you're going to have to fight for a spot on the bus because everybody's going to go to the same place that you want to go at the same time.
Yeah, that was always awful. Like, it would take 3 or 4 buses sometimes to get on the bus at, like, Wallen or something.
Yes.
Everyone gets out of
Yeah.
class, is trying to get on this bus, and it's not, like, first come, first served. It's like whoever elbows their way to the front of the line and gets on the bus, gets on the bus.
Yeah,
Oh,
I hated
absolutely.
the manners.
I hated that.
Killed me. Some people were really polite, but that really didn't get you very far. And I hated that you had to be like, "Let me on this bus. I was here before you, lady. I've been waiting for 30 minutes, and I saw you just get out of class. You wait your turn. You know, people really try to cut you off. It's horrible, and you're just like the reality of human nature comes out while you try to get on those buses.
That's so true.
But yeah, that was the only reason why I pretty much did not want to get a job in Savannah, especially when I was, like, my first year when I was going out to those freshman class areas that are far out. I was like, I would never be able to make my job on time or know if I was even going to be there at an approximate time. You just never really were consistent besides being late.
Yeah.
It was like, you're like, I'm going to be late today. I don't know how late, but I'll be late. So.
Well, sometimes I would be the exact same amount of time late each time for a class, and I thought, well, how much do I have to bump it back to get this right? Because there were times where I would be out there 30 minutes before class was supposed to start, and I could still be late just because if I'm catching the bus, I might not catch, like you guys said, the first 4 that come by, and if you're on one that's not going to show up till 10 till, which happens a lot, worst warning. Freshman area, at least you're, like, still in the vicinity where, like, a lot of buses will service you, and you're another drop-off point, so at least if anybody has come back from a class, there will be plenty of people exiting the bus to free up space for you to get on. If you're the next stop after the freshman area and you live at Oglethorpe House, you are so out of luck. I lived there, and it was horrible to try to get to any of the stuff on the main red route because all of the freshmen would have filled up at the freshman area, and there's no room for anybody who lives in the upperclassmen dorms, and it's like, what am I going to do? There were times that I sat out there, I think 50 minutes before class.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you're 30 minutes early, and you're like, well, that only took 20 minutes, but had I waited any longer, I wouldn't get there at all. It was bad.
Which we could talk about how bikeable and walkable Savannah is, as long as you're going at reasonable hours during the day. Because, like, my second year, I think I got a bike my first year, but I didn't really start using it until my second and third years. And, oh my goodness, you can get places so quickly just by biking.
Yeah.
And everything's pretty flat, too, which makes it, like, super easy, too.
Yeah, no hills in Savannah except for if you're in the freshman dorm. You've got
Boundary.
the one hill, a boundary over there.
One really bad one over there, but other than that, yeah, absolutely. Everything is so flat, so bikeable. People, I mean, other than tourists, I guess, but they're confused about anything else on the road anyway. They expect bikers to be there. There are plenty of routes that have bike lanes on them and everything.
No.
It's really good.
There's only one.
Wait, is there?
On Price Street. That's the only bike lane.
Oh, really? I thought there were more.
No.
Oh, I lied. It's only on Price Street.
Lisa's
and
wrong.
That was funny. That was funny because it's not even a nice street to bike on.
No.
I remember biking down that street with my giant portfolio in the pouring rain trying to get to life drawing class. I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I didn't bike personally because I don't like biking next to cars. If there's a bike lane in California where I live, I'll use that. But I still get really nervous about being next to cars and biking. But Savannah, the roads are pretty wide. They're not like in LA or in some other cities where it's super narrow roads and then people are parking on the side, and so then it's like literally just like one lane. You need to know that there's a lot of one-way streets too, so as a biker you want to know where you're going in that case. I think Scad provides plenty of bike hooking up spots. Like, the freshman dorm is just like a sea of bikes.
Oh my goodness, it's incredible.
But at the dorms, I don't recall ever seeing people like freaking out over not having a place for their bike or not being able to lock it up or something. But
Yeah.
bike theft is a huge issue in Savannah. And fortunately, like, Scad has security, but yeah, if you don't keep that thing, like, welded to something, it could get
Get a
stolen.
kryptonite lock. Well, you
Yeah.
can also, Scad Security has an option, whatever, you can register your bike with them, so then if
Yeah.
it gets stolen, you give them their number, and then they file a police report or whatever, and then if it turns up, they can get it back to you.
Highly advise that if
Which
you
I'm
have
sure
a
does
bike.
happen. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me say something else about biking and oh yeah. Pretty much all the streets are like not, yeah, like Eva said, they're not super narrow and they're not super trafficy. Like once you're there and you're in the city, you get to know what streets are busier than others. Like MLK, Broughton Street, Oglethorpe. Like those are all really busy streets. But most of the time, it's not a problem. Watch out for car doors opening though.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get clipped.
Yeah, how many friends do we know that got clotheslined by somebody opening their door?
And wear a helmet too. Like just because not everyone else is wearing a helmet doesn't mean you shouldn't wear one too. Wear a helmet.
You absolutely should. I mean, we all, I think, as a community got really spooked. Was it our third year? I don't remember. I remember a student, she didn't wear a helmet, and I think she was hospitalized for a very long time because she got hit while she was on her bike and had a really bad head injury. I don't know if she came back. Did you guys ever
I don't know.
follow that story?
But
You
there
hear
are
about
stories
it.
like that. Yeah.
God emails you, and you're like, oh crap, I'm dying. But yeah, I would say just remember that it just takes one trip to the hospital to put you in a lot of money debt, especially if you don't have insurance, especially if your insurance doesn't apply to the other state, which was my case. And so just be aware that, it only takes one accident, one fall, one knock in the head, and then you're like stuck in the hospital with a cajillion bills and you just want to cry. And yeah, it might not be a big injury. Maybe it could be a huge injury, but it all could have been avoided if you bought the $5, $10, $15, $50, whatever kind of helmet you want. You just had a helmet.
Scad Security one time did an event where they like gave out free skateboard helmets, and you got to paint them and decorate them. So like, I don't know if they would be doing that again, but just it doesn't have to be expensive, but anything is better than nothing.
Yeah. Oh, we should talk about the Scad Clinic, except I don't know much about it. It does exist. It's there. I think I only heard bad stories about it, that they weren't very helpful or just things were unable to be done for somebody. It wasn't the right place to go for whatever they were dealing with.
Yeah.
Do you guys know any more than I do? Because I don't.
I know that it requires a lot of paperwork. So if you're sick and you're like, oh, I'm just going to go over there and get checked out real quick, and you've never been there, don't plan on going in and coming out anytime soon, because you're going to have to fill out a stack of paperwork, which includes like your medical insurance. It's not free. You will be billed. So it's convenient, but I believe everyone there is like, I don't think there's any doctors on staff, or there wasn't when we were there. There were just nurses. So they have practical medical advice, but there's limits in what they can do. So if there's an emergency or something like very like fatal or like dangerous or a big issue that you have like medically that you have an issue with, they probably won't be ready to like handle it. But if you're like, I'm fighting a flu or a cold, or I'm starting to wonder if this is allergies or something else, they are reliable to go to in that case. But again, you have to remember to fill out the paperwork with them, because that will totally catch you off guard. And the ladies there seemed pretty sweet. I remember, I think I went in there with, Erica, my friend. She like chipped her tooth, and she wanted to know if they could recommend a dentist or something, and they couldn't. So, but the ladies there were nice. They were just like chilling. They were like, hey, come on in. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess you guys have nothing else to do. So, it's quiet and stuff in there for the most part. I've had another friend who went in there for a cold, and that's where she told me like there was so much paperwork and really surprised her, and she wasn't prepared to answer all of it. I know as a freshman and my first years being an adult, there's a lot of information you don't memorize or have offhand. So again, if someone hands you like a stack of paperwork, you're like, I don't know what these answers are, and then you're calling your parents, and then they're not answering, and then you're like, I'm just gonna go now. So
Stressful.
yeah, be prepared for that. I think there's a thing online where you can fill the forms out at home and then bring them in. Just do some searching with the Scad website, you can find it. But yeah.
Good. I'm glad you knew about it, because I mean, I never got that sick, I guess. Wow. I'm glad. I had only heard bad experiences about it, but yeah, it does exist. It does exist, so you can go.
Yeah. It used to be in a weird part of town too, I think, and they moved it in this like heart of the city. So it's a better location now, I think. Kind of a weird location, but it's a good location.
Fortunately, everything's pretty close to the freshman area that you'll need immediately. And I'm sure that they plan it that way to some extent. I mean, with supplies and everything, they have the school store. Ex Libris is the Scad's bookstore, and it's a really nice place. And depending on the time of year, depending on
budget,
budget, you have to be careful. If you keep an eye on the prices of things, sometimes you can find good buys when they have sales and everything for the different school supplies that you need, but I would say don't you dare go down to Ex Libris that first day, because not only is it going to be a total zoo, just like Turner House, you thought you'd go out with your parents then, get away from the crazy dorm and go school supply shopping. No, it'll be insane. Don't do that. Actually, you wouldn't do that because you wouldn't have your supply lists anyway, but still, the point
the first day you get them.
The point still stands. The Ex Libris bookstore, it's a really nice place. I just don't think that your first week is going to be a good time to go to that store. They're going to have the prices jacked up because you're all the freshmen and you don't know where anything is, so it's the closest place to go for school supplies, and you'll walk down there and you'll buy Scad memorabilia, everything, you know, that didn't necessarily need to be $17 more, you know. At least that was my experience. I think it paid off to wait a little bit and hear recommendations from upperclassmen or from teachers where to go for certain supplies. That was my experience. I didn't go to the bookstore. I don't think I even ordered my books through them, hardly ever. What about you guys? Did you use Amazon for books and school supplies, or what did you guys do?
Yeah, go ahead, Cassie.
I'll say I used half.com, which you can get textbooks for pretty cheap a lot of times. You have to like watch out for the reviews and stuff, because sometimes you like won't get a book you ordered, or you get a different book you ordered. But most of the time, I had really good experiences with it. Plus, you can like sell your books through there later if you're so inclined. Yeah, sometimes you can get them from the library. Sometimes you can get away with not buying the book at all.
And that is an amazing thing. Either you can get it passed down to you, or you won't use the textbook as often as you think you will, which I don't recommend this, but I won't pretend it's not true. Sometimes you can take a gamble and think, I don't think we're going to use this book, and then you don't get it, and then you're like, good. Most of the time that doesn't work. I have had plenty of times where I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy the book then because blah, blah, blah. We didn't use it for all these other lecture classes I took. And then that will be the one that we research heavily, and it'll be the third week of class, and they'll be like, Lisa, why don't you have your book? And I'll be like, whoops.
I never had that problem. Part of that, I'm sure, is because I took my GE at community college, and I did buy some of those books and was disappointed and tried to sell them back. And the part that killed me the most was that if it's a new edition, they won't buy it back from you. So then you're just stuck with this book that's got one less image or one less note in it, and it's completely like worthless, and that's just dumb. But at Scad, because most of my classes that required textbooks were were art history, I already knew that I had yet to meet an art history professor that actually lectured from the book. I did buy my Asian art history book just because it was like, I found it, he didn't care what edition it was, so I got it for like a penny. I was like, well, I might as well. But yeah, that none of them were ever necessary in that sense because no one ever lectured from them. If you do better reading and you need to understand something more, I guess, and you don't listen to lecture, like you drift off, then I would recommend a book. But that's not my case. So it was, I didn't buy any lecture books unless I wanted them personally for my own library, which happened more once I got into my major because I was excited about it. And so when a professor would be like, yeah, I want you to learn about film, like, shots or something, then I wanted to buy that book because I wanted to read it because I am interested in that, despite whether or not he lectured on it. But it wasn't that way with all of my classes. And with some of them, like, I remember we had to buy Bone, and I did buy it, but it was so big, and I couldn't read it all, and I didn't care. Like, I was just like, this is dumb. But the big point I wanted to put out with supplies and books is that a lot of students that have taken the same class as you will have materials or books left over and are willing to sell it to you through like a Facebook selling page or just through like connections of talking. So especially if you're taking those fundamental classes where they want you to buy like $60 pan pastels or charcoal or oil paints, trust me, there are like 100 other students that took it last quarter and they didn't use all of it, and they're never going to touch it again because they're a film major or they're a fashion major,
right.
So or equestrian major. So yeah, there's other ways you can buy it through the community. I don't know the Facebook's page anymore, but there's always like a free and for sale page somewhere that's connected to Scad, and I sold a lot of stuff my senior year, but I didn't know about it my freshman year. But I've seen a lot of transactions happen on there that were totally legit and not sketchy, and yeah, just be smart about it. But they're definitely really useful if you're on a budget and need to get something that is just too expensive or you don't think you'll ever use again.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice, especially for the first quarter, because if you haven't brought much with you, you will be building up your entire library of materials, and that can leave you completely broke. The things that they ask for because you're going to be, with the fundamentals classes, they really want you to experiment, so you're just going to have to collect so many different materials. It'll be paintbrushes, charcoals, Conte crayons, paints, anything that you can think of, and if you didn't bring any of that already, which sometimes that doesn't matter, if you already have some, because they'll specifically be like, in this class we will only use ones the professor said that, you know, have his seal of approval on, which is lame. I've had that happen too, where it's just like, oh, I already have this, can I use it? And it's like, no, it has to be specifically this brand. We all have to be on this like level playing field or whatever, which I guess I understand, but not when it's going to be $60 more than you needed to spend. So that can be really difficult the first quarter. So yeah, free and for sale pages are really good too, because if you're coming in as a freshman and you think, well, I don't know who to talk to because I just came here and I don't know anybody, the Facebook groups are really open, so you can quickly connect with people that you don't know, and meet at usual places like the dorms or the other academic buildings, and that should be totally fine. Unfortunately, my favorite supply stores don't exist anymore because they closed Bull Street Station like 2 years before I graduated. That was a great place to go. Inexpensive, a nice family owned it. I think our professors even had the specific, this is the pack that you buy for our class so you don't have to hunt and pick for things that you don't know about. That can also be a life-saving thing. If a professor says, hey, if you're not familiar with these materials, you can get like my preset stash at this particular store. Sometimes it might be a little bit more pricey because they're going to use higher end brands than you might have picked out for yourself, but in my case with color theory, when I didn't know anything about acrylic paint or what I would be looking for, I'm like, I'm not going to mess around. I will just get what she recommended in a little pack. I don't know how many other professors did that. Did you guys have anybody?
No, most of it was just like foundations, I think.
Yeah, I didn't have any foundation professors that did that, but I know my roommates did, and I've had friends who, you know, like, I've had people who have done that. I don't remember any of my professors doing that, but I remember if you don't know everything on your list, that's totally okay. I felt so ashamed. I was like, I'm an artist, and I just got this list of supplies, and I don't know what any of these are, and all of the employees at any of the art stores that you can go to in Savannah are willing to hunt them for you. So don't be embarrassed to be like, I don't know what this is or any of this is. Will you just help me walk around the store and find all of it? And that works pretty well. I've only had one mistake where an employee gave me the wrong nib holder for my dip pen, but other than that, I was fine. So for fundamentals, you'll be fine if you just follow them around because everybody knows what the basics are. But when you get more into your major, it just asks someone who knows more than the people there.
Yeah, and even a lot of the employees at the stores are SCAD students, either former or still current. So if they've taken the same classes that you already have, they'll know what to recommend. And yeah, like you said, everybody's taking the same classes as a freshman, so you're all in this together. Nothing should be too unfamiliar.
Yeah.
I guess we could talk about what are the first set of classes you can expect, like how that's set up. I know it differs with each major, but I think everybody has to take drawing 1, everybody has to take color theory, and then you'll get a lecture class to go with it, which might be an English class, a speech class, math, depending on what you transferred with. My first quarter I was able to opt in to drawing 2 because of a second portfolio that I submitted, so that was nice to waiver into that class. So I started at drawing 2, and design 1 I think is the other one I had, and then speech. So it'll always be 2 studio classes and then a lecture class, and then from there on out you can pick whatever you want, but there's a good reason why they only say take 2 studios and a lecture, although I know sometimes, according to what classes you have left, that doesn't always work out, and I know Cassie and Eva can tell you a lot about that.
Yes, indeed. Go ahead, Cassie.
Oh, I don't know. What 3 studio classes did I take at a time? I don't remember, but it was fine. Like, if it had been my first quarter there and I'd done that, it would have been crazy and I would have hated it. But because I'd already had understanding of what to expect, at least on certain levels, it was fine. It was a lot of work, but it was fine. But first quarter I had, color theory, drawing 1, and then I got to take anthropology because most of my other credits were already filled with transfer credits from high school.
What kind of stuff did you have able to transfer, and was it because of AP credits, or you requested to waiver things?
No, it was because in Washington, and there's some other states too, we have a Running Start program, which allows juniors and seniors in high school to go through community college and take classes for pretty much free. So I got to do that and took a whole year off of SCAD for me with just credits that transferred. I had like design transferred, science transferred, math, woo!
That would have happened to me.
I think some history and English, like all those general education stuff, transferred. So it was really nice. Saved a bit of money.
Which can be a blessing, when it saves you money and you can leave early. But it can be a curse if you've transferred in with all of the things that would be your lecture classes and the only things you have left to take are studio classes. So inevitably, you'll just be taking 3 studios for the rest of your life. I think that happened to both of you, didn't it? What happened to you, Eva?
That's what happened. I definitely did above and beyond with classes that were transferable. Part of that was because my community college was like more prepared for sending students to UCs and state schools in California, so they kind of had that down. And then when I was like, I'm going to a private school in Savannah, Georgia, they were like, well, let's talk to them and figure that out. So when it finally came down to applying and having them look over my credits and plugging them in, I had way more GE than was able to transfer. There's a certain amount of units that you can transfer, and I definitely maxed out on that. But fortunately, the classes that they decided not to transfer over were the ones that I kind of took for fun. Again, I was taking 5 classes a semester, so like my firearms familiarization class did not transfer. One of my creative writing classes didn't transfer. Some of my math classes didn't transfer. That was all okay. And then some of them, you have like elective general education. There were a lot of like GE things that I was like, wait, what is that? Whatever, it's Phil, but what would that even be? Like, I have to take an elective general education class. But yeah, so I took a statistics class and then like a college algebra class, and that was for their math requirement. But like my community college didn't realize that statistics doesn't transfer as a math requirement, which apparently is a thing for a lot of colleges, so I was surprised that was a thing. So I had to take another math class after that, and yeah, that was nice though, because I've heard the math class at Scad is kind of a joke, which is nice if you suck at math, like a lot of artists do. But if you want to challenge yourself, yeah, don't do that. And also, it's kind of frustrating when you know that you're paying a lot of money for that math class that's a joke, where you could pay for like $60 transfer for it. So I know some students, they'll hold back on taking some G classes that they can take over the summer in their community college, and then they'll finish SCAD for the first year and then transfer those over the summer back home where it's cheaper and they're home. Like, it's just more easier that way. I think that's a smart way to go, but it can get complicated. Again, your school has to approve it, and SCAD has to approve that the class is an equivalent, which sometimes they don't. So it's a lot more paperwork, but again, it's saving money, so I would definitely advise that. And again, a lot of people take the math class, so it's not a big deal if you have to. It's comforting to know that it's not going to be like calculus and you're going to be sinking.
Yeah, I can attest to it. It is the most remedial math class ever, and it's not my specialty. I made it through, so can you guys. Have faith. So if you have to take it, you'll get through it. It's fine. But yeah, there were some people that I heard would take a math class back at their community college at home, and fortunately it was able to transfer. But definitely research that before you decide to take it.
Don't just
Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's like double math, and why would anybody ever want double math?
No. You can also take an exempt exam. I know, was it Lisa, you were talking about you can opt out of classes. I never did that. And part of me, like, I did get out of some things because I had AP credit also. So you have to have a higher score with AP scores. It won't work if you have a 2 or a 1 in an AP score. So I had AP art, which was in high school. So my score was able to get me out of drawing 1, and that was nice because I really didn't need that in my life. And so it was nice to start off with drawing 2, but I had some friends that skipped out of like life drawing and like drawing 2 and color theory, and a part of me was like, yeah, I think I could have applied to skip those, but I felt like they were really important to take anyway. Unless you specifically have taken those classes. Like, if I had taken that color theory class in community college, then I would be really ticked if I had to take it again. But I didn't take any art classes that were transferable, that I wanted to transfer in community college, so I didn't have a problem taking any of those and learning the basics, because they are really important to have a firm grasp on. And if you've never really taken anything but just your, like, rinky-dink high school art class, and they were like, and now we're painting the circle. Like, if you've had a basic drawing class in high school and that's all, then it is really important that you take, like, color theory and drawing too. It will really round you out as an artist in a lot of ways, besides just drawing things from looking at them. So
I really wish we had somebody who was like a non-drawing major on, so they could talk about how they survived drawing 2, because I know there's a lot of, drawing 1, drawing 2, any of the drawing classes. I know that there's a lot of anxiety about, well, this is not going to be part of my major at all. Why do I have to take it? Is there any way I can get out? As far as I know, the answer is no, and you just kind of deal with it. Fortunately, there are only 2 that I think everybody has to take 2 drawing courses regardless of what your major is. I could be wrong about the second one, but at least the first one, don't you think?
I think so.
I think, yeah, you should take them. And if you do have to take them, I think be friends. If you can't draw and you're not drawing for like your career, I would definitely recommend like just becoming friends with your professor, because no matter how stubborn and psycho, you must be an artist, drawing is important, they will have sympathy on you if you talk to them and ask them for help and seek their advice on everything. They'll be like, oh, well, Jimmy can't draw a stick figure, but he tried. So that would definitely help your grades in that way. I definitely recommend that method, although it does take a lot on your part. But if you're stickler on straight A's, then that's the way to go if you can't draw in art school.
Yeah, I think everybody's willing to work with you, and it's not as if you are the first film major ever to take a drawing class, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always talk to other people. The academic advisors, they're very helpful. I've had a lot of good experience with them helping me navigate my classes, and I especially advocate for not deviating too much from the schedule template that they give you. I don't know about you guys, but that was the most helpful thing that I received from them. They give you, it blocks out an entire calendar of your quarters at Scad. Let's see, if you have 3 each year and you spend 4 years there, you know, it'll block out each of them in sequence.
Yeah.
It's not completely locked as what order it could be because, I mean, sometimes a class is going to fill up and you're not going to be able to take it at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's very, very helpful.
Yeah. I would definitely advise that.
Too, if you don't know what you are able to take, like if you don't look at prerequisites, you can get really screwed if it's registration day and you find out then and there that it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
I don't have too many registration horror stories. I don't know if you guys do, but I mean the recommendation, of course, is just that you have to, you can do it beforehand and know what you want to do, and they have little codes that you can type in instead of like going through a drop-down menu and looking through all the classes and everything. You can just type in a number super fast. Yeah.
Do that ahead of time.
Yeah, Eva, do you have any words of wisdom with registration?
Yeah, fortunately it was the same software as my community college, so I felt pretty comfortable with signing up for classes. They do have like a bunch of help, and you don't have to sign up for them when you first apply. They sign you up for your first 3 classes, but from then on you have to do it yourself. You'll have a registration time depending on your credit amount, and some of that can really screw you over because you'll have a class and you'll have to register, but so far professors have been, from my experience, were really lenient about like, hey, you have to register, you can go use a computer in a different room and go register during class, like I understand, but some of them aren't, and if that's the case, then that's the case, but I would definitely advise like following the plan. For my case, since I couldn't follow the plan, I tried to follow it the best I could at the first, which I kind of regretted later because I ended up having all of, like, my first classes were easier for me, and I started taking those with the scheduled, like, art history and then the 2 studio classes, but then the problem was that as I got into my senior year, I had to take these more difficult classes, and I didn't have any leftover GE. So at probably around the end of my first year, my advisor, which I'm glad I sat down and talked to them about it, pointed out that I should save a couple of these art history classes. One of them was like a freshman class for sequential that I took my senior year, but I'm really glad I did because I couldn't imagine taking like, I couldn't imagine doing like Viz 2 and senior project with another 2 studios. That would have definitely dumped me in the toilet. I would have just been done. But I did have to fill up the in-between between my first year and my senior year with 3 studios. So it is possible, and not all studios are the same, and we all have our skills and weaknesses, so I just tried to make sure that the electives I took were things that I was interested in, but then also balanced and looked at professors and talked to other students over the workload, and I tried to balance it out with like, well, this is a studio class, but I excel in this, so I can get this work done easier, it'll be fun, whereas this other studio class I have to take and I know it's going to be painful. And so by balancing it out, it made the quarter not as awful. But you have to manage your time and you have to know what you want to do, because if you're just kind of like, I think I'll take this class, and then you hate it, or you're not very good at it, or you're going to learn anyway, but you just be smart about it, because there were a lot of students that can't handle 3 studios, And if that's the case, then I would really consider looking at taking 2 classes a quarter, even if it means like extending it out a semester or a quarter or a year, because it's much better to do well, to understand, than to fail or lose your scholarship because you messed up and you have to retake a class or something. So there's a lot of students, especially in their senior year, they finish up and then they just take like 2 classes a quarter, and that seems to really help. So I didn't do that because I'm crazy, but I did try and balance it out. So yeah, stick to that.
And I think everything is pretty easy to rearrange classes. At least you're not going to be the only person who shows up the first day and is like, never mind, click. I fortunately didn't have to deal with that a lot. I did a lot of planning beforehand, and then also just got lucky. I mean, it was like, oh, this won't be too bad. I can handle this. Or this feels like more than I can bear, but I know that there isn't another option. Oh, well. I think the only thing that I transferred out of was my senior year. It was my final quarter. I just had to do one more art history elective to finish everything. And there was a British portraiture class that sounded really interesting. But I remember, yeah, you guys know this story, that I go in there and we do, full-on presentation of what we can expect from the class and everything. But the teacher also said, just a warning, I hope that there are no seniors in this class because I don't want to take you away from what you need to be finishing up this quarter, because this is a very work-intensive class. And I thought, thank you so much for being honest. Goodbye. I can't handle this right now. Really, though, I was like, wow, thank you for the warning. I was taking a children's book illustration class and then senior projects, so I was going to do a comic and then a kid's book. That was all the time that I needed that, and then thinking of where I'm going next after graduation, because it was my last quarter and I was planning on wedding, so it's like, thank you for being open about that. I don't think all teachers are. I think you find out pretty quick. I don't know what the add and drop time is. Do you get a week? Do you guys know?
You get a while.
Yeah.
You get more than a week.
Yeah. I can't remember what it is. Is it 2 weeks?
I want to say it's like 3 weeks. Oh, it's 10 weeks. Yeah, I think you have 3 weeks. And I think then it's put on your schedule, on your transcript that you dropped it. But yeah, the withdrawal is probably at least the first 2 weeks, I would say. Definitely not the first week, but yeah, there's no problem with dropping and rescheduling. I'm trying to remember, somebody did that I knew, that dropped a class and then added another class, and it worked out somehow. I'm too scared to do that. I'm like, I'll just stick through it. I'll go die. But yeah, I'm very anxious about not getting my spot in the class. So yeah.
It can be pretty nerve-wracking. The internet, without fail, also, just so you know, the internet will die in your building during your registration time. It just does. Everybody maxes out the server in Turner House, and you'll hear the whole building shake with how loud everybody's screaming. It's incredible. I don't think the computer lab that they have in the other residence hall, I don't know if that was any better. I went down to Dyson Lab once because I was like, I'm not messing with the internet. This already happened to me one quarter. And then I went down to Dyson Lab, and I think everybody had the same registration slot at 7:30 in the morning, because it's 7:28, 7:29, and you can just it's tangible how stressed everybody is, and you're sitting there like, okay, here we go. And then everybody's cell phone went off at the same time, and all you hear is the clicking, and it was exhilarating but stressful, and people were screaming, and these classes were filling out instantly. I'm not joking, there were tables flipped, people pushed down the chairs and just stormed out of the room, and I'm trembling, thinking, should I be able to take this next drawing class? Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
It's very stressful. And be warned, your time slot could also be during when you have a class. That happened to me once, and I thought, I don't want to be rude, but I can't miss this. So teachers are pretty understanding, at least in my situation. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I figure it's that day anyway, go take care of that. And then even if somebody's not, you can skip, I guess. You can just not go to class that day in order to get your classes. Oh, we never talked about absences.
I know.
Look at me in numbers. 5. 3. You only get 5, right?
No, it's 4. You can only miss 3, and then if you miss the 4th, you're done.
Wait, really?
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
It's definitely not
Something. But
that problem.
it's also, like, not every teacher is religious about taking attendance, but technically, SCAD's policy is that if you're 15 minutes or more late to class, that's counted as absent. So there were times when, like, I was on time to class, and then my roommate called me and was like, I locked myself out of the apartment. And I was like, oh, shoot. So then I saw my teacher in the hallway before class started, and I was like, hey, I've got to go help my roommate out, but I'm here. Can you count me as being here? I'll be back. And she's like, nope, if you're not back in 15 minutes or whatever, you're absent. I'm like, cool.
Gosh. I had that happen once in Biz 1 with my professor that I won't name, but yeah, I left my comic pages in the library in the scanner, and I literally was like, I'm going to be back for critique. It's just in the scanner. Like, I have it done. It's on the Dropbox. Like, I just left it in the scanner. And he literally just, like, you have, like, 10 minutes to get from, like, Norris to the library. And I, like, ran so fast, so furious. And I made it. But it was like, oh, my gosh. So, yeah, some of them really do kind of like to use that power. But I've had a lot of them where you come in late. They don't really, I don't know. It depends on if you're consistently late, too. It always is that way. And if you're a nice student or if they hate you. Yeah. If people hate you, then just be there on time all the time, because there's going to be no mercy. So, yeah. Most of the professors are actually pretty nice. You got to feel them out, though, because some of them are very, like, opinionated or special, or, you know, we're all artists. We're all little special snowflakes. So.
Yeah, it's a toss-up either way. Just go to class. Don't purposely skip if you can avoid it, because you will get very sick one quarter. It happens to everyone. You will get really sick and miss so many classes in a row, and it gets really bad. So don't do it. Don't do it if you don't have to. Be a good kid. Go to school.
Wear a helmet. Go to school.
You're paying for it. That was always the thing that killed me, is when the professor's like, it looks like not many students showed up today. Too bad, because they paid this much money for this class, and you're just sitting there like,
oh.
So.
I guess the last thing that we can talk about with first year is just the checkout process. I don't know if there's much to know. They really go over it with you.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you have to go to a meeting with your RA anyway, and they will sit there and go over it, and you will go, I don't understand, but it's really, really simple. It just sounds more complicated in words.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Just don't take your key home. Make sure you return it.
Speaking as somebody who did that, don't do it, because you won't be as lucky as me and have Cassie be your roommate and resident assistant, and you won't be able to mail it to her, and they waive the fee. Oh my goodness. I was done that year. You remember? I'm like getting on the plane, and I get this phone call from Cassie, and I'm like, oh, how sweet. What did I send off? And you're like, you still have the key, you dingus. And I'm like, oh. So, fortunately, she worked it out for me, because we're tight like that, but I don't know.
Nobody else was that. You will get dinged. But, yeah.
But that's a good, like, thing, too. Like, take advantage of your resident assistant. Like, they're there to help you and to guide you through the process. So, be nice to them. Be friends with them. Don't be obnoxious.
Spoken like a true resident assistant.
If you have questions, like, ask them. They'll probably have the answers, or can get you the answers.
Yeah, and if they don't seem like they know what the answers are, you can always go to Resident Life and Housing and call them up and ask them that there, and they'll probably be more.
They're all really nice.
Mm-hmm. So, I didn't have a great experience my senior year with RRA, but Cassie was a hard one to follow up for sure. But it was.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, if you're having problems with your RA, you can always go up to the next person. I think they're located in O House. I don't know if they're still there, but they were, and they're really, like, nice and accommodating to talk to. Granted, if you're a whining baby, they're not going to really want to take you seriously, so compose yourself professionally if you have an issue. But, yeah, they're usually there for you. They're very kind. I've had some RAs, like, they do a lot for us, and I don't think they get a lot of credit, but I still remember calling some of them really early in the morning, or really late at night, and being like, I'm having an issue, I need some help. And some of them were, you know, like, they didn't come, but they said sweet words that comforted me, and I was like, there's hope. So, yeah, but they do a lot. They drive, they ride their bikes at night to get you your key, they unlock your door.
Cassie does.
Deal with the police and the fire department when you burn the door down. So they're there for you. So appreciate them and let them know. Be their friend, because they have to deal with you with a smile every day. So.
You and the crazy person next door that you hate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Good. I think those are some good tips and tricks. I don't know if there's anything else you guys can think of. 'Cause I don't think there was anything left. Yeah, other than you have a really long winter break to look forward to after your first quarter. It's 6 weeks long, right? 6 weeks?
Yeah, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, whenever those dates fall, you've got that much time.
So have fun with that.
Blessing. All right.
You guys have anything else to add?
No. If you want to apply for SCAD, do it. If you're scared about going, it's going to be okay. So, make friends.
And if you feel like you want to dive roll out of the car the day that your dad drives you there, it's okay. I have been there too. I survived 4 years, so it'll be okay, kids.
It will. You'll make friends. None of us knew each other before SCAD.
Nope.
That's such a weird thing, like knowing where we are now, and now I'm going to get all mushy and think, if I hadn't gone there and I hadn't met you guys.
I would have gone to another art school and met other people named Cassie and Eva.
Time to close this out. Before I get too mushy. All right. Well, that is all, folks. And next time we'll talk about some other things. I don't know yet. No, I have a list somewhere. It's just not up right now. I'm distracted. Oh, well. We'll do a couple more live streams. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions or requests about what you'd like to see in the next video or anything like that, anything we can answer, go ahead and leave it in the comments. So we will talk to you later. Peace out. I need like an ending outro thing. Okay. Goodbye.
Yeah.